Before the break, we were talking about inner engineering, this idea of becoming the architect of our inner world. And it's not just some abstract concept. The video actually lays out some practical ways we can start to take control of our thoughts and emotions.
I'm all ears. It seems like everywhere you turn these days, people are talking about mindfulness and meditation, but it can all feel a bit overwhelming. What specific techniques does this video recommend?
Well, one of the simplest yet most powerful tools the video highlights is awareness. It sounds basic, but think about it. How often are you truly aware of what's happening inside you in this very moment? Are you caught up in thoughts about the past or worries about the future? Or are you tuned in to your breath, your body, your emotions as they arise?
I know I'm guilty of spending way too much time in my head, replaying conversations or stressing about things that haven't even happened yet.
We all do it. But the video suggests that simply becoming aware of those patterns is a huge step. It's like shining a light into the dark corners of our minds, bringing those unconscious processes to the surface. And once we're aware, we can start to make different choices.
So instead of just reacting out of habit or getting swept away by our emotions, we can pause, observe, and choose a different response.
Exactly. And it's not about suppressing emotions or pretending to be happy all the time. It's about acknowledging them, understanding them, and then deciding how we want to engage with them.
The video makes this bold statement. You have the ability to turn your emotions on and off like a switch. I'll admit I was a bit skeptical about that at first.
It does sound a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? But think about a time when you were feeling down, maybe even on the verge of tears, and then something funny happened. Suddenly you're laughing and the sadness is gone. In that moment, you essentially flipped an emotional switch.
I see what you mean. It's like we do have this ability to shift our emotional state, even if we're not always conscious of it.
Exactly. And inner engineering is about refining that ability, making it more deliberate and conscious. It's about practicing so that we can eventually choose joy even amidst difficult circumstances.
Okay, I'm starting to get a clearer picture of what inner engineering is all about. But what about those compulsive cycles we discussed before the break? How does this all tie into managing our energy levels?
That's a great question. Remember, those compulsive cycles are often draining our energy without giving us much in return. The video uses this analogy of a leaky faucet. Every drip might seem small, but over time, those leaks add up to a significant waste of water. It's the same with our energy.
So the first step is becoming aware of those leaks, those habits and patterns that are draining our energy. But then what? How do we actually plug those leaks?
Well, the video highlights a few key areas. First, it emphasizes the importance of becoming conscious of how we're spending our energy. It's like creating a budget, but for energy instead of money. We need to become aware of where our energy is going and start making deliberate choices about how we want to invest it.
So instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media for an hour, I might choose to spend that time reading a book, going for a walk in nature, or having a meaningful conversation with a loved one.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing activities that nourish our energy and align with our values. And sometimes that means saying no to things that drain us, even if they seem important or obligatory.
The video also talks about the food we eat. It goes beyond just calories and nutrients. They talk about these live foods and how the energy of the food we consume directly impacts our own energy levels.
That's right. They encourage you to tune into your senses when you're eating. Really look at your food, smell it, taste it. Ask yourself, does this feel alive? Does it feel vibrant? It's about becoming more mindful of what we're putting into our bodies and choosing foods that nourish us on a deeper level.
It sounds like they're suggesting we should be able to intuitively know whether or not something is good for us.
Yes, and that intuition can be developed through practice. The more we pay attention to how our bodies feel after eating certain foods, the more we start to recognize what truly nourishes us. And it's not just about what we eat, but how much we eat. The video highlights a fascinating connection between overeating and sleep.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, they suggest that when we eat more than our bodies need, it takes more energy to digest all that food, leading to increased inertia and a need for more sleep.
So it's not just about getting enough sleep. It's also about managing our energy levels throughout the day so that we don't need as much sleep in the first place.
Exactly. It's all interconnected. Our food choices, our sleep patterns, our energy levels, our emotional well-being, they all influence each other. The video encourages us to see our bodies as holistic systems, not just separate parts.
So what about rest? The video touches on this idea that true rest isn't just about sleeping for a certain number of hours.
That's right. They make the point that if we're constantly stressed and anxious, even when our bodies are resting, our minds are still racing. It's like we're never fully able to switch off.
It's like we're running a marathon in our minds. even when we're lying in bed trying to sleep.
Exactly. And the video suggests that true rest comes from a place of inner peace and joy. When we cultivate a sense of inner stillness, our bodies and minds naturally relax and rejuvenate. They use the example of how people tend to need less sleep and food when they're experiencing a state of deep joy or contentment.
So it's like our inner state actually influences our physical needs.
Yes, and that's why inner engineering is so crucial. It's about creating the inner conditions for well-being, physically, emotionally, and mentally. It's about becoming the conscious creators of our own experience rather than just reacting to whatever life throws our way.
And a big part of that, as we discussed before the break, is being truthful with ourselves. The video emphasizes that self-deception is one of the biggest obstacles to growth and transformation.
It's like trying to build a house on a foundation of sand. It's bound to crumble eventually.
The video uses this metaphor of creating illusory solutions to problems that don't actually exist, all because we're not honest with ourselves about the root cause of our suffering.
Right. It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet by painting over the water damage. It might look better on the surface, but the underlying problem remains.
So how do we start to break free from this cycle of self-deception and create a more solid foundation for our lives?
Well, the video encourages us to confront those uncomfortable truths about ourselves, even if it's painful. It's about being willing to ask the tough questions, like, why am I really doing this? What am I afraid of? What am I avoiding?
That kind of self-reflection can be tough, but I see how it's necessary for real change.
Exactly. And it's an ongoing process, It's not about reaching some perfect state of enlightenment. It's about continually refining our perception, managing our energy, and aligning our actions with our deepest values.
The video encourages us to see life as an ongoing experiment, a process of continuous learning and growth.
And one of the most important things we can learn is how to understand our own minds.
They talk about how our thoughts and emotions are constantly in motion, like waves on the ocean.
And how we often get caught up in those waves, letting them dictate our experience.
But the video suggests that we don't have to be at the mercy of our thoughts and emotions. We can learn to observe them without getting swept away.
Right. It's like becoming a surfer riding those waves instead of being tossed around by them.
So how do we develop that kind of mental mastery?
The video recommends practices like meditation and mindfulness. These techniques help us to cultivate a sense of inner stillness, a space where we can observe our thoughts and emotions without judgment or attachment.
It's about creating a space between stimulus and response, a space where we can choose our actions rather than reacting out of habit.
And that space is where our true power lies. It's where we can tap into our creativity, our wisdom, and our capacity for love and compassion.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. Inner engineering, managing our energy, being truthful with ourselves, cultivating mindfulness. It's all about taking responsibility for our inner experience and creating the conditions for a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. And the video doesn't shy away from the fact that this is an ongoing journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, challenges, and triumphs. But the key is to keep practicing, to keep exploring, and to keep growing.
And to remember that we're not alone on this journey. The video reminds us that we're all interconnected, part of a larger web of life.
They use this beautiful analogy of a forest with each tree interconnected through this vast network of roots. And just like those trees support each other, we can support each other through our words, our actions, and our presence.
That's a powerful image. It reminds us that we're all in this together, that we don't have to go it alone.
And that recognition can be a source of strength, inspiration, and hope. Because when we connect with that sense of interconnectedness, we tap into a power that is far greater than ourselves.
This deep dive has been incredibly rich and insightful. We've covered a lot of ground, but I feel like there's still so much to explore.
We've only just scratched the surface. The video goes on to discuss this concept of liberation, the importance of aligning our actions with our values, and the power of finding our unique path. And I think those are all topics that deserve their own deep dive.
I agree. But for now, we need to wrap up this episode. We've covered so much today about how to make the most of our time and energy and create a life of true freedom and purpose.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring these ideas. I hope it's given you some valuable insights to take away and apply to your own life.
Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the video, and stay tuned at the